So today, guys, is our last lesson for Unit 3. We've been talking about functions. We started off just what functions are and how to evaluate them and whatnot. And in the last few lessons, we've been focusing a lot on transformations. And so what this lesson is going to be all about is combining everything that we've done so far with our transformations. So we've looked at translations, reflections, and compressions and expansions. So we're going to put all those together today to kind of really work these functions all over the place. So that's kind of the goal there. All right. This is a really important slide, so make sure that you guys get this down. So go ahead and take a moment and copy that real quick. So there's an f of x up here. You don't need to write this, but there's an f of x here. There's my f and there's my x. It's just that there's so much other stuff there. And each one of those things are transforming the function in some way. Okay? So let's begin. The a here in the front. That a, so draw an arrow to that, and I would be adding these notes to it. The a does quite a bit. The a does quite a bit. If a is positive, then that is, don't miss this, girls. This is probably the most important part of the day. So if a is positive, then nothing happens. But actually, let me just make this easier. We'll just say if a is negative, how's that? If a is negative, we have a reflection over the x-axis. In other words, it flips the graph upside down. Okay, so we learned that. That was our very first lesson on transformation. When you have a negative outside the parentheses, it flips your graph upside down. In other words, it reflects it over the x-axis. But that's not all that the a does. If the absolute value of a, meaning we don't really pay attention to the sign, we just look at the number. That's what absolute value means. So in other words, if I had a negative 2, I don't care about the negative. I just care about the fact that it's 2. So if the absolute value of a is greater than 1, then we have a vertical expansion. And if the absolute value of a is less than 1, we have a vertical compression. Okay? So that a tells us quite a bit. If it's negative, it flips it upside down. If there is a number greater than 1 there, then it's going to stretch it vertically. It's going to make it taller. If it's less than 1, it's going to make it shorter. It's going to smash it closer to the x-axis. All right. The b likewise has a lot of information associated with it. I'm going to use a different color. So first of all, if b is negative, then it reflects the graph across the y-axis. In other words, it flips it horizontally. Oh, really? Okay. You can sit there for now. So if b is negative, it reflects it across the y-axis, in other words, horizontally. But that's not all the b does. The b does other things. So it does the opposite of what the a does over here in a horizontal sense. So if the absolute value of b is greater than 1, then we have a horizontal compression. In other words, it shrinks your graph horizontally, makes it skinnier. It doesn't make it taller, but it makes it skinnier. And if the absolute value of B is less than 1, then we have a horizontal compression. I'm sorry, expansion. So in other words, it makes it wider. So those ones do quite a bit, the A and the B. There's a lot going on with those. The other two that we'll look at aren't quite as busy. So for this one here, the H, if you have X minus H, then that translates your graph to the right. It moves it to the right. And if you have X plus H, it's not B, it translates left. Moves your graph to the left. Hopefully, I mean, we got a few new people in here today, so that's fine. But the rest of you guys, hopefully all this is like, oh, yeah, I remember that. Oh, yeah, I remember that. Because this is stuff that we've looked at for the past few days. Let's take a look at the last one here, K. If you have a plus K, then that's a translation upwards. And if you have a negative K, that means we're translating down. Okay, let's begin. All right, guys, so now at this point you can look at what I've printed for you guys there. So go ahead and take a look at number 1. I'm going to do a couple of examples for you. On all these problems, the first thing you want to do is you want to see, what are the transformations? I mean, you could see the change that we have from here to here. What are these things? So in this case, I have a half there. Let's write this down. The 1/2. What letter does that represent on the stuff that you guys just wrote down? Does that represent the A, the B, the H, or the K? Not the A. It's the B. Now, why is it the B? It's inside those parentheses right on the X. So it's inside the parentheses right on the X. So that's a B value. Okay? And what about that 3 there? What do you guys think? A, B, H, or K? That's the K. So let's write that down. 3 is the K. Now let's start with something easy. What did we write down about the K value? Very good. Nice job, guys. Very good. So if it's positive, it goes. No, you're good, Aaliyah. I just said it backwards, but you know it. If it's positive, it's up. If it's negative, it's down. So which way does this thing go? So let's write that here. It translates up. Now this one has 2 things that we need to look at. Okay? So read what it says about B on your notes really quick. Read what it says about the letter B. So I'll just take some volunteers on this one, but let me get a piece of paper so I can write down your points. So remember, the B can tell us 2 things. The B can tell us 2 different things. So what's one thing that we know about this graph here based on that B value? Anybody got a guess? All right, so we're a little unsure. So there's 2 things that we wrote down about the B. One thing that we wrote down about the B was that if it's negative, it flips it across or it reflects it across the y-axis. Is it negative? No. So we do not have a reflection going on here. No reflection. But what else did we say about the B? We said that if the absolute value, that means ignore the sign, just look at the number, 1/2. If it's greater than 1, it's a horizontal compression. If it's less than 1, it's a horizontal stretch or expansion. What is this?
It's less than 1.
It's less than 1. So what does that mean? What is it? Horizontal what? Expansion. So there we go. So we see that there's a horizontal expansion and there's a translation up. Which option seems to be the one? A is the one. There we go. So in other words, now you don't have to do this part, but I just want to do it for you, okay? If f of x is equal to x squared, this is what f of x would look like. This graph would be shifted up and it would be stretched horizontally. So it would look something maybe like this. It would look wider and it would be up higher. Okay? So let's go ahead and take a look at another one. Now, when there's a negative just sitting in the front, we can put a 1 there. So let's do that. Let's put a 1 there in the front. I want you guys to talk to your teams, and I want you guys to take a moment and see if you guys can figure out what letters these represent, the -1 and the +2. What letters? So talk to your team, and I'll call on you to share out your answer in just a second. Does it represent A, B, H, or K? Go and talk to your teams, and I'll call on you. All right, so I'm gonna see what you guys have concluded here so far. Cal, what did your group think about the -1 there? It is the A, I agree. Now I heard some discussion in the middle here about inside or outside. So the absolute values are like the parentheses. So anything inside the absolute values would be an inside. Let's take a look at the next one. What's the B? That's a good question. I'll get back to that in just a second. Sophia, what did your guys' group think about the 2? Huh? I agree. It is the K. Now, don't let me forget your question, because she asked what's the B. Even though these things aren't there, we can represent all of those letters with numbers, and I'll show you, even though they're not up here. But I'm going to come back to that. Now, here's what I want you guys to do. I want you guys to talk to your teams, and I want you to tell me, if you have a -1A, what does that tell us about the graph? And if you have a +2K, what does that tell us about the graph? So talk to your team, see if you guys can figure that out there. All right, let's see what you guys have gotten here. Let's see. Shamani, what did your guys' group conclude about the -A there? It's okay. It's okay. Make sure you talk with your teammates, though, okay? Let's try Vidal. What did your group conclude about the -A? Huh? Oh, the answer. Okay, well, I'm just wondering, what does the -1 and the A mean? It reflects across the x-axis. I agree. Reflects across x-axis. So we saw that on the A, one of the things it does when it's negative, that's a reflection across the x-axis. In other words, it flips it upside down. It flips it upside down. Michelle, what did your group conclude about the K there being a positive 2? That's another translation up. Now, you guys probably have enough to get the information. Now, Vidal said it was B, and he's right. Right? Isn't that a reflection across?
Yeah, okay, so since the A is negative, it will compress vertically. Right. And it would go across the A.
Okay, so okay, so you think there's a compression?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. All right. So if you have this, you guys, then that is a stretch vertically. It stretches it vertically. If you have this, that is a compression vertically. But 1, the absolute value. What's the absolute value of negative 1? It's 1. Is that greater than 1? Is it less than 1? So we don't have any stretch at all. There's no stretch or compression. It just reflected it. Yep. So there you go. So it's B. It's B is the answer. Any other issues to address? All right. Let's try another one. So I'm gonna use my cards here, and I'm gonna ask Kimaya. There's a negative here in the front, but I can put a number there. Yes. So if you guys see a negative with no number, just put a little 1 there. That'll help. All right. I want to know what letters those are. Take a moment. Talk to your team. Figure out what letters those are. Okay, let's see what you guys have gotten. David, what letter is the negative 1? Adriana, what letter is the 2? What letter is the 2? A, B, H, or K? It is the B. Okay, so our A is negative 1. So look at your notes. When A is a negative 1, what does that do? And look at your notes. And when B is a positive 2, what does that do? So look at your notes. See if you guys can figure that one out. I'll give you guys a few moments on it. Oh yeah, I forget.
Hold on.
Okay, make sure you guys are talking to people. If you don't get it, ask somebody what they've got in your group. So when I call on you, you guys got something for me. Okay. Let's see what you guys got again. Kevin, what did your group think about A being a negative 1? What kind of transformation does that do? It reflects it across the x-axis. We'll get there. I'm not there yet, but we'll get there. Michael, what did your group say about the 2? It's a horizontal compression. All right, and so from there, I shall ask Edwin, what's the answer then? A, compresses horizontally by a factor of 2 and reflects across the x-axis. I agree. All right, one more as a class, and then I'm going to let you guys do a grip of them on your own in the team. All right. See if you guys can figure that one out together as a group. You got to find your numbers, and you got to find out what letters they are and what the transformations are. What's the numbers? What's the letters? What's the transformation? What are the numbers? What are the letters? What are the transformations?
Oh yeah. Close by me.
What are the letters? What are the numbers? And what are the transformations?
Well, the actual, like, you know, so, yeah, like
What's
X
up,
is
Armand?
minus by, yeah.
And the reason I know it's H is because we don't have parentheses, but we do have a square root, which is like parentheses. So that's under the square root, so it's like it's in the parentheses. It's inside. All right. So I'm going to give you like another minute, and these are the 3 questions I'm going to ask. What numbers do I care about here? What are the letters that they represent? And then what are the transformations for those things? So those are the 3 questions I'm going to ask. So make sure you're ready for them. Yeah. Huh? Is there a B or an A? Well, I don't know. Can't tell you right now. I forgot about that question. Don't let me forget at the end of this. I'll talk. There is a B, but it's not. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. All right. So here we go. Alondra, what are the numbers that I care about in this problem? The -2 and 3? Okay. Shakir, what letter does the -2 represent? So you're close, but not quite. You're close because it is inside. Niana, what did your team guess? What letter? You're going to pass? You passed with a smile this time. I like it. All right. Brianna, what did your team guess for your -2? It is an H. Good job. It's the H. So Shakir and I want you guys to hear this. So there was some debate. Is that the B or the H? Well, the B is in front of the X. The H comes after it. Also, the B is multiplying the X, whereas the H is being added or subtracted. So we're subtracting this number from the X. So that's an H. That's an H. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the next one there. Miles, what did you guys think about the 3? What letter? Uh-huh. No, because it's outside the parentheses. H is inside, so it's the K. Good. All right. Let's get our transformations down. Stephen, what does this -2 do?
It translates to the right.
Okay, it translates right. And Denise, what does the K do? And therefore, my answer would be C? Okay, good. All right, now, Denise asked a question that I forgot to go back to. Did you guys know that every one of these problems always has an A, it always has a B, it always has an H, and it always has a K? I can rewrite this. Watch, I'll show you. I could put an A right there in the front, and I could put a B right there in the front. Got all of them. It's just that they're ones. Yeah. But, watch this. Let me go back to another one here. We don't use them if they're ones typically. How about this guy though? There's no A, so what is it? 1. Now, there's no B, so what is it?
1.
But there's no H. Now, be careful here. What would that be, you think?
0.
It's 0. So if the H is missing or the K is missing. Now, you guys don't really need to know this for this, but I'm just answering your question. But there is a K. So if the H or the K are missing, then they're 0. If the A or the B are missing, then they're 1. They're really there. We just don't write them. Okay? So you don't need to worry about them for this activity, but just thought I'd share it with you. All right, so I think many of you guys are probably already done, but I'm still going to give you guys a little bit of time to work on 5 through 8. And we're not going to discuss them in too much detail. I'm just going to go around and ask for answers. The final answer, what letter did you get? So take a minute and complete that. So we're working on 5 through 8. I forgot. Did you finish 5 through 8?
Alright, so since 3,
That is part of the original function. So that's just part of the problem.
So it's 8.
But it's an outside. Yeah, but this square, it makes the
Squared. The parentheses are, so let's see if I can, notice this one, compare this one to this one, right? That's a B because it's inside the parentheses. This one is an A. There's no parentheses. So if you wanted to rewrite it, you could write it like this. Yeah, so in number 2, that is an A, it's not a B.
so on X, on this one, it's always around the X.
Yeah, now see here how they included the number in the parentheses, so now that's a B.
Okay.
And that one. That's a negative reflection. The fraction causes it to do something else. But the negative is what causes the reflection. This is for number 6. Reflection causes it. No, it's an A. So it, maybe if you leave it as a B, you would be right. But it's not. I rewrote it like this. Like, see how this number's in the parentheses? That's a B value. But this one, I rewrote it like this to kind of make it a little bit clearer. Without the parentheses, that means it's outside, and so that's an A value.
I guess so.
Wait.
What are the
Super 6, no, how find B.
So let's write those down. Also, now decide what letters to use. So on this step here, what letters do you represent?
Oh, wait. Alright, this is
H is inside parentheses being subtracted.
Yes, because it's time to let it
I
end.
have an
Inside the parentheses.
So,
Yeah,
across the y-axis. Alright. So, y-axis.
What about that negative
Right there, A is probably look, you see big.
Now we can use these little instructions. So with the B, we had two facts about it. Weight of negative, it's not, so it's bad.
Oh.
And then, if B is greater than
Wait,
1,
because it
it's
doesn't make
horizontal
sense.
compression.
Vertical one
Expansion. But if B is 1/3 greater
and
than
it's also horizontal.
so then we have a horizontal expansion.
Was it not horizontal? My org. Wait. It's something bigger, greater.
Wait, hold on.
Not you.
So, okay, those are our two
What I'm
translations.
We only have B, right?
So just look at those keywords, horizontal expansion,
Greater than one.
translation.
You're looking at
Then one person.
So notice the process we did, it's like a four-step process. First, we got the numbers. Step two, we decided what letters they are. Step three, we decided what the transformation was. And step four is fine. Try that at number 6.
Or no, that was.
They're calling me, what's up?
Either A or B.
She said, that's for you. Do you know who was first? It's okay, I'll talk to you.
Oh.
No, but what's up?
All right.
Which one? So that negative one is an A. It's outside the box.
Oh,
So when A is negative, what does that mean? And when H is positive, what does that mean?
no,
Value of an 8
It
it expands. If it's added by A is negative, it reflects over the x-axis. So since it's negative, it's not a compression or a stretch because it's not greater than or less than
Oh
1.
my god, okay, let's see.
But it is negative, so that's a reflection across the x-axis. And what about the H? It says plus 2.
No, this one.
Yes,
If
negative
there was
one.
no,
An A.
if there was
Wait,
no,
no, it is.
Oh.
Negative one.
There we go. So we'd have a reflection across the x-axis and a translation to the y-axis.
Because it is outside of the X. Let's
Yeah.
or X minus. It has to be.
I did not.
I'm like, yeah.
The negative 1 is outside.
Okay, I also thought it
So
was.
that's a good point. It's your confusion. So there's a number. So B and H is inside numbers. There's a number inside twice, right? A is completely outside.
Oh, so it's just.
And then I also thought it was.
No, yeah, A is times 2. It's just that they don't hold it the dot for some reason.
Wait, okay.
Let's try
Oh,
it.
okay, okay.
Let's try to do it.
Wait, he said, wait, negative 1/3.
All right. All right, Leah, what did your team get for number 5?
For number 5, we, my
A? Okay, so let's see if that's right. Expands horizontally and down. Yes, I agree. Now I meant Leah, but I'll still give you a point for that. But go ahead, Leah. What did you guys get for number 6? Not sure? All right, let's try, Lily's not with us today, but let's try. Crystal, what did you guys get for number 6? Which one? D as in dog? Compress vertically and reflex across the x-axis. I agree. Next one. Alonzo, what'd your group get for 7? B? As in boy? B as in boy? Okay. So let's see. Expansion vertically and reflection across the x-axis. I think that's correct. Good. And last one, Amaya, what'd your group get for 8? C. Reflection across the x-axis and translates left. Good job. All right. We have one more thing I want to get through before we call it a day, and it's going to be small to look at up here, but you guys have it on your paper. So find this for me. All right. So find that number 9 on your guys' notes. You know what? I think instead of trying to cram this in right now, I think we'll just call it a day right now, and we'll do this tomorrow. I was going to let you guys work on your study guide tomorrow in class, but I'd rather we spend time on this than do the study guide in class. So why don't we stop here? No, there's no quiz, but tomorrow we are going to have a study guide for homework. Our test on Unit 3 is going to be Wednesday. Test on Unit 3 will be Wednesday. Yeah.